Okay, so Wednesday, 8th of October 2025. So Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff men should know. Going down the rabbit hole, epistemic depth. Now, this is an interesting thing, an interesting trait and quality that's worthwhile fostering and nurturing in life. Being able to see the second order consequences of things, able to see things 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 steps ahead, able to see the consequences and decisions and Monte Carlo simulation of the heuristics and possibilities of every action and inaction, opportunity cost and indecision. Meaning, at a deeper level, everything we do we have to think about in extreme detail. And that's going down the rabbit holes and following the logic, following the maths. What if this, what if that, going deeper and deeper and deeper. It's so infinitum that we can get lost in the ideas and options and optionality and consequences and possibilities and chances of things happening that we become paralyzed with indecision, and or we become empowered, paralyzed and empowered. We become empowered in a sense of we understand things not so much on prima facie, on first view, but the deeper logic and reasoning behind it, going deep and deep and deep, infinitum. But in so doing, so it can paralyze us with regards to indecision and what to do, meaning you can get stuck in certain logical loopholes or indecisiveness and what does that mean or how can that be or following it. And even to the point where we understand things so well, it shatters our worldview. Epistemic, we could say epistemic contrast, definitely, with regards to understanding how this would really work. So, for example, a credit card is not meant to be paid off, but really to be perpetually just paying off the minimum infinitum, there's that word again, forever, and just scraping off the fees. That's what they're really designed for, things like that. And then you could also say, well, banks in some or mortgages, banks are in the business of contracts and paper and uh, debt collection, you could argue, as opposed to loans or mortgages or landlording, or even McDonald's. Their real business isn't burgers, for example, it is property and refinancing it. It's just the reason to build something there is a commercial enterprise, meaning selling food. And you could even go deeper to say, well, using that selling food helps to pay off the mortgage that backs that commercial property, that commercial loan or commercial mortgage that helps keep it secure for the long term, meaning cash flow. Real things like that, tearing off the mask of a lot of, there's a nice word for this, sacred cows, things we take for granted in life. But then you've also got to be careful that if you do this a lot with society, you become, and this is an interesting word, an iconoclast. Yeah, iconoclast, meaning someone who breaks images, iconography, icons, someone who shatters illusions in one way. And that can, depending on many things, can either get you reviled, exiled, or exalted in society. It depends on a few different things, depending on which masks and which illusions you're shattering and for who, things like that. Usual power dynamics. But by going down the rabbit hole, we understand reality at a deeper level. Meaning, for example, with regards to being paralyzed with indecision, there was an interesting logical loop that I got stuck into months ago. The time and date is immaterial, but I remember it clearly, where I was looking at different people's actions, and I thought, well, that what they said this, but they mean this really, and then someone else said something completely different, and I was stuck bouncing between the two here for a while, we're not knowing what to do, and I had to just do force reboot in a sense of crash the logic because we went down the rabbit hole so much, we got into this recursive loop that just kept cycling and cycling, which led to indecision, meaning that one what they said, but that they kept contradicting each other, and it didn't add up. Luckily, force reboot, restart, to borrow the terminology, rethink, re strategize, recalibrate, go ahead, move, proceed. Powerful. Some people would see that as contradiction, but I think when you understand more of the I want to say the finesse, but more of the more specifics of people and reality and the world and human incentive and human action, praxeology, you understand that it just makes total sense in the context of the scenario, but that's not relevant for this video. But that's what can happen When you understand things at a deep level, you can recognize the seen and the unseen. You can recognize the said and the unsaid, the actions and the inaction. You recognize all these things, and you can really ride that wave to then think, well, if they said that, they used that particular word, but they didn't use that word. Okay, but they had a pause there, so that might mean this over there. But they didn't say this, so therefore this might happen. But hang on a minute, why didn't they mention X or Y or Z? So that's not going to happen. And this is the Monte Carlo simulations, all these different scenarios. That is going down the rabbit hole. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if, second order consequences. And we can ride that wave, as I said earlier, to really think 20 steps ahead, 40 steps ahead, and then amplify that or outsource the thinking, really, we could say, with AI. Wow, we can be strategizing. We can be strategizing a decade, 20 decades in the future very easily with the right questions and judgment calls like that. It's amazingly powerful, amazingly powerful. But then we could say this epistemic depth. How deep do you want to go? How they use that particular word? How fractal, how microscopic do you want to go on that particular word for them to understand them? And that can lead to that paralysis where, but they said this, they didn't say that, taking it literal, taking things literal, and you're being discombobulated. Let's say, a nice fancy word, being confused. That's quite dangerous, but it depends on a few things. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see these things. Yeah. But yes. Yeah. And pattern recognition across epistemic depth. Epistemic depth is to teach pattern recognition across suffering layers: time, labor, energy, risk, moral compromise. Starts with first principles, then you can go into 5 whys, why, time preference lens, incentive mapping, systematic mirroring. It's amazing. It's like giving someone X-ray goggles. Interesting. They won't be able to unsee the grid ever again. Powerful stuff. But, and this is interesting, good skill to understand, second order consequences. Understand things at a deeper level, first principles, why, praxeology, anthropology, sociology, psychology, you name it, to understand everything around you. Powerful stuff. But otherwise, Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff mentioned now. Subscribe for more, and you will see me tomorrow.